Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Well, in Nigeria, illegal mining has become a major problem, leading to considerable environmental damage, economic losses, and fueling insecurity. According to the federal government, illegal mining costs the country $9 billion yearly, with the sole money coming from a 3% royalty paid by the few licensed miners. Now, despite rising demands for solid minerals and having a substantial reserve, Nigeria has not maximized the opportunities and potential. Some states have been identified as hotspots for illegal mining. For instance, illegal mining has persisted in Zamfara's gold-rich area. The lucrative nature of gold mining and unregulated mining practices have attracted criminal groups, resulting in regional disputes and instability. Plateau State, known for its rich natural resources, has recorded illicit mining activities in the north-central region, including tin, columbite, and diamonds. Now, Niger State has witnessed sand mining from riverbeds and floodplains without proper permissions, which has resulted in erosion and loss of agricultural lands. Tonight, Tuesday Live will examine diverse perspectives and how these challenges can be tackled. But before we go into the conversation, let's get to see this report.
The news that Zamfara State is a mineral-rich state with large deposits of gold, copper, iron ore, tantalite, manganese, among others, which have remained largely untapped. The state's solar mineral sector is hence dominated by artisanal miners, with attendant negative consequences on the socio-economic development of the state. The prevalence of the illegal mining activities notably resulted to the acute widespread lead poisoning in the state in 2010, when more than 700 children were reported dead and many others deformed by the neurotoxin. The source was traced to artisanal gold mining and processing in the affected villages of mostly Anka and Bukun local government areas of the state. The mining activities have also been linked with the protracted security challenges bedeviling the state.
Nobody has ever narrated any story that the bandits have invaded any of the illegal mining fields in Zamfara State. So why is it that they are not being attacked? Which means one has every reason to suspect that the bandits are working in liaison with the mineral extracting people.
This apparently informed the decision by the federal and state governments to take various measures aimed at addressing the menace. These include the declaration of Zamfara State as a no-fly zone and the placement of embargo on all mining activities across the state by the federal government in March 2021, despite efforts by the security forces to enforce the ban. The illegal mining activities seem to have continued in some parts of the state.
We have resorted to engage in the activity so as to make ends meet, as the bandits have rustled all our animals.
This prompted the present administration of Zamfara State to direct law enforcement officers to take stringent actions against violators, including shooting those involved on site. Governor Dodalor has also recently signed an executive order that bans traditional rulers in the state from issuing consent letters for mining activities in their respective domains.
As responsible government, we have to take this initiative with bold steps to make sure the issue is being addressed. And that led to the signing of this executive order by my humble son.
Zamfara State government says appropriate modalities have been worked out by the relevant authorities to ensure that the abundant solid mineral deposits in the state are properly and adequately tapped in line with the economic diversification policy of the federal government.
There are strategies that we are working on to make sure things are put in place in order for the state government to call on the lifts of that ban that has been put by the federal government. So once these things are concluded, we hopefully will open it up We'll call on all the companies that are registered with the mining cadastre that have the mining licenses to come in and do the mining activities or the exploration in the state legally.
With ongoing concerted efforts and renewed commitment to achieve a lasting peace in Zamfara State, it is expected that the ban on mining activities will soon be lifted to pave way for the effective implementation of the government's tough and decisive plans in the state's solid mineral sector. In Gusau, Jamilu Ibrahim.
All right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's go ahead and introduce our guests. We'd like to welcome to this program Mr. Dili Anyolike. He is the President, Miners Association of Nigeria. Thanks for being with us.
Good evening, sir. Thank you.
Right. Let me also welcome to this program Emmanuel Ojukwu, Retired Commissioner of Police. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Again, we are joined tonight by Olubenga Kulola. He's a professor of geology at the University of Ibadan. Prof, nice to have you.
Thank you. Nice seeing you.
And joining us tonight, of course, is Dr. Kitso Ngargu. He's the first medical geologist in Nigeria. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, as you well know, at some point in time, this program becomes interactive. You can join in the conversation. When it's that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedures. But for now, let's begin to look at the issues at stake regarding illegal mining in Nigeria and the impact on the economy. But let's start off with the President of the Miners Association of Nigeria. Well, the explosion that occurred in Ibadan has again called for many questions on happenings in the mining sector. What are your views?
Well, thank you very much. Concerning that explosion, I think it is the failure of the system that actually caused that explosion. Because number one, excuse me, that place where that explosion took place is an unauthorized place for storing explosive. Because the handling of explosive has procedures, right from the point of purchase to the point of usage. There are rules, there are regulations, there are procedures guiding explosives. Take for example, before anybody can be qualified to handle explosive, you must be a registered licensed miner. And of course, when you are licensed as a miner, you are supposed to seek for permission to build a special purpose structure, which you call magazine, for the storage of explosion. And it's not, even when you build it either in the quarry or in the mining site, it has to be located a little far away from where you have human presence. So to store explosive, and when you get to, after getting this approval to construct a magazine, you also need to approach the ministry for permit to buy at any point in time. Whatever quantity you want to buy, you must get a permit for it. And a bomb disposal expert, usually from an arm of the police, or an arm of the police, an officer of that unit must accompany that explosive from the point of purchase to the point of storage. And even in usage, there are registers. You have to make returns of every explosive use at every each month to the ministry. And the copies of all these transactions are always forwarded to the DSS, to the office of the NSA, and of course to the EOD department or unit of the Nigerian police. So finding explosive in that environment is an act of illegality, a very serious one at that, and it calls for serious concern.
Asibi Ojukwu, you just heard the president of the Miners Association say it's a failure of the system, and so many Nigerians have spoken out against this and said, look, where was intelligence when these people were stockpiling explosives in a residential area? They couldn't have done that overnight, would they?
Yes, what happened in about a few weeks ago is a very sad development. So my sympathies to the people of your state and Nigeria in general, particularly to those who lost loved ones and to those who lost their property. It's good the president mentioned failure in the system, and you asked about the presence of intelligence. What the police does when it concerns explosives, he also explained that is that they follow these explosives from point of purchase to where they're stored in safe places. Now, when somebody does what he ought not to do, then what happened in Ibadan? What happened? The police and the security agencies don't work in isolation for the public. These explosives were kept in unauthorized places. He called them magazines. That's a technical word for safe places. A good holding facility that will be manned and checked and regulated. Now it was kept where they were kept where they should not be kept. Someone in the system, this has been going on for many, many years or months. People live there, and they must have seen the movement of these issues from here to here. And maybe some of them may benefit from the movement, helping them to load them, not knowing they are playing with fire. So people have to give information to law enforcement agencies. Earlier on you mentioned when you see something, say something. If you keep mum and it happens, anybody could be a victim. Intelligence fails where there's no information from the public. And it could fail if there's a trust gap between the people and security agencies. They may think that if we inform them, they'll get money from it, or they may do nothing. So we need to fix that distrust gap, that people will trust their agencies and know that failing to do what they ought to do may result to even their own deaths. So Nigeria failed by not calling on the authorities involved that this kind of untoward things are happening in their localities. It's like find somebody stockpiling petrol in his house, and you say, hey, you will come, you won't concern me. It concerns you. That is what we have now.
Well, Prof, again, let's look at what is happening in Ibadan. And you're a professor of geology. So mining must necessarily carry such huge risks. But what is in place to mitigate such risks? And generally to ensure that where accidents, because accidents might occur, even where you have them in the magazines, the safe places that they talked about, what should be on?
Well, I think the president, thank you, sir. The president of the Miners Association of Nigeria has, of course, elaborated the process for explosives and the Commission of Police. But I think one of the missing things there is monitoring. Who's monitoring these mining fields? As we are talking now, don't be surprised that blasting is going on. You cannot mine without blasting. Even at the smallest scales, you have to open up the rocks, you have to blast the rocks, and then you have to use that to look at the materials that are inside. And it's not something that's like exaggeration. Right now in Nigeria, we have over 1,000 places where mining is going on. Even in Oyo State, and I think the president of the Miners Association of Nigeria will know this, as I'm talking to you, there are not less than about 70 places in Oyo State where mining activities are going on, whether legally, whether illegally, and is accompanied by this indiscriminate use of explosives. I'll give you an example. In the Ibadan area alone, within a radius of about 20-25 kilometers, there are not less than about 15 quarries there. Whether you are going towards Abuja, or you are going towards Isheyin, or you are going towards Iwo or Ife, all around. And what do they use in disintegrating the rocks into the different aggregates? It's the blasting materials. And I'll tell you something, when you have such activities going on at such a huge scale, and I mean it's huge, people don't know the level of mining that is going on in Nigeria, whether it's the artisanal, whether it's the scavenging, whether it's even the medium scale, who monitors? And let's look at, people are talking about, illegal miners, and I laugh at this concept. You discover that many of the places we're calling, illegal miners, have licenses covering them. One form of license or the other. Either small-scale mining license, either even prospecting license, either exploration license, or even quarry lease or whatever. But see, it's a ring. It's a ring that's within legality. There is illegality, and I'll tell you typically. I believe maybe the intelligence reports or all the reports that will go and will reveal something like this. Let's assume that it's miners that really handle the Ibadan explosive. And I'll tell you, those miners may have valid licenses in some of the fields in Oyo State. But what they do is that they sponsor, that is language, they sponsor these laborers. They supply them with explosives. They supply them with the equipment they use in breaking the rocks. They supply them with food, with some shelter, and some, because they don't pay salaries. At the end of the day, they share this money on some percentages. So they are covered. But at the same time, it's a ring of illegality within a kind of a covering of illegality. And who monitors? So the issue is this. We have agents of governance that should do this, like the mining inspectorate, like the security agencies, monitoring the explosives, monitoring the magazine structure. The laws are there, very stringent laws. And one thing about Nigeria that is good about Nigeria is that we have laws. Even our mining laws are okay. Maybe there are one or two areas we may need to. But who is really monitoring? The Ibadan, let's take the example of the Ibadan Office of the Mines and the Mining Ministry of Solid Minerals. How many mines inspectors are there? There will be less than 10 to man about 70 or so mining areas that are going on almost 100 kilometers, sometimes 150 kilometers, up to the border of Benin Republic on the western side. You have only 8. How many vehicles do they have? So we have to sort out the issue of monitoring. We have to sort out the issue of personnel. We have to sort out the issue of expertise. And we have to sort out the issue of honesty. When we face the concept of honesty in anything we do, we will avoid these accidents. Or we call them accidents, but it's a breach. That's just the word. It's a breach along the line.
Quite a loaded package, monitoring, expertise, and some of the Dr. Ngagu, let's hear you on this.
I would like to, Professor, by my side, emphasize monitoring. I will want to emphasize regulation and regulatory framework. And this is the little difference. In monitoring, you are checking to see if the mining is being done as agreed or to standard or minimal standards. In regulation, you are beginning with who is qualified to even do the mining and within what framework, within what given sets of rules and regulations. And are they adhering to such rules and regulations? And in regulation, legislation comes in strongly. In 1996, South Africa, after bearing a lot of mining disease burden, paying out in one sweep, $400 million is paid as compensation to miners. Very huge burden on the economy. They decided to strengthen legislation. They decided to look at minimal standards, and even to the point, like Professor said, our mining act, mining laws, they are good, except for a few gaps. For instance, when you talk about occupational health diseases in association with mining, the regulatory framework is weak. It's not strong. It does not bite. So regulation has to be enhanced. But one little evidence to the fact that probably what happened in Ibadan is associated with poor monitoring rather than regulatory framework. And then the word illegal mining is the fact that there was clear evidence of infrastructure constraint. Those explosives had no business being in that location if there was no infrastructural constraint with respect to storage facilities. So probably there was massive influx of miners, a boost in population that took a toll on health infrastructure, educational infrastructure, even transport infrastructure, and storage facilities. And so this is clear evidence of failure in monitoring, and a little indication that, like he said, some illegalities might be thriving within slight legality. I give you the same scenario in another way. A taxi driver is registered to run a transport company, maybe with the National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW. But if monitoring and enforcement is poor, he does overloading. He refuses to put good tires in his vehicle. He maintains the vehicle poorly. Now, the NURTW has no means of knowing that, yes, he is licensed to drive. He is part of our association. But he's doing overload. He's putting human beings in the boot. These days, you see driver with another passenger on the same seat. Maybe we can look at the educational setting. Somebody gets a license to run a secondary school, but nobody checks what quality of teachers such a one has employed or recruited. So this is the kind of happening within the mining sector. So there was a clear case of infrastructural constraint attributable to poor mining or illegal mining.
Let me ask the president of the Miners Association this. What's the relationship between the association and the miners themselves? At what point do you relate? How do you relate?
Well, association is voluntary.
Right.
And we have our rules, we have our regulations, we have conditions for being members of Miners Association of Nigeria. And one good condition, primary condition, is that you must be a licensed operator along the value chain, whether in the processing, whether in the mining, whether in the trade, mineral trade. You must obtain a mining title. And before you obtain a mining title, you must have fulfilled some conditions with the MCO. That one is this one qualifies you as a miner. So, and we try as much as well to educate our members. So we have many platforms. We have chapters across the nation. The silent states in this country, we don't have a chapter. And we normally educate and sensitize our members as to mining best practices.
Since you do have a chapter in Oyo State.
We do. And like I said, like I want to align with the doctor. You see, it is one thing, illegality cut across. It's not limited whether you obtain a license to mine or not. Take for example, like I just cited the case of a taxi. If a taxi driver has a valid driver's license and is driving against the traffic, do we call such a person? Because he has not actually justified the driving license in his hand. So if such a thing happens, such an operator, if it's a member, is on his own. But in this case of your state, those that have been being suspected so far, let me use that word, we don't have them in our register.
All right, we do have a number of reports in addition to the studio discussion. Let's take this first one from Lafia.
Doubt occupies a prime position in the solid minerals production index of the country, giving it the appellation of home of solid minerals. With the conscious efforts of the federal government for the development of non-oil sector, Nasarawa State comes handy with the compelling quantities of solid mineral deposits dotting the landscape of the state.
In terms of geology, Nasarawa State Census District happens to have virtually all the basic geology. That's the basement complex mineral that's related to basement complex and those in the sedimentary. Then in terms of the mineral census, strictly speaking, we have the industrial minerals, which are the barites, which are the kaolin, which are the marble.
This has informed frequent interface between the state and federal government, as well as other major stakeholders for exploration and exploitation.
The government is doing it, especially with the executive order and then the closer collaboration with the mining cadastre. Because since the strict law, the issue of royalty is supposed to go to the federal government, then eventually, just like the oil, we are going to now drive, just like the oil producing state, we are supposed to have SUMPADEC, that's solid mineral development states, which if eventually see the light of the day, we are supposed to also attract sort of the 13% the oil producer also attracted.
Apart from security challenges, however, despite the modified policy framework of government towards efficiency and effectiveness in the sector, the challenge of non-state actors manning a large chunk of the business persists. This the state government says it is not unmindful of it, as it is evolving conscious measures towards surmounting the issues by implementing safe mining practices, robust collaboration with security agencies, use of proper technology and licensing database to meet international best practices.
Collaboration with the security agency, we are taking a step to ensure that all mining sites are being properly profiled and registered with a view to know within a touch to know who and who are there, and if there are any other crime, it is easy for us to trace it.
This seems to already be yielding positive results, with the first lithium processing plant in Nasarawa local government area to mine and process in large quantities of the mineral in the state. As the trajectory of a sustainable revenue policy of the federal government is gradually making inroads to the solid mineral sector, the concern of many, especially stakeholders, is for a proper synergy between the federal and state government to coordinate the sector in order to block leakages in revenue collection and regulate its activities in terms of compliance with the extant laws, guiding the operation as well as social intervention through the community economic empowerment responsibilities. In Lafia, Charity Ashki.
Now from Lafia, Nasarawa State, we take another look at the situation in Enugu.
The world is focusing more on preserving the planet's natural resources, and nations are leaning more towards renewable energies in efforts to curtail carbon footprints. Experts maintain that benefits of mining cannot be overlooked.
We have foreign investors and even local investors too, who are able and ready to come in with their own investment, you know what I'm saying, and partner with government.
Aside from supporting thousands of jobs, the extraction and processing of minerals contribute to the expansion of the industrial sector, diversification of the economy, and enhancement of productivity. Determined to reap in full the benefits in the mining sector, which had in the past sustained the economy of the southeast region through the mining of coal in Enugu. The Enugu state government has risen to tackle the biggest challenge facing the sector. Considering the consequences of uncontrolled mining, which includes all forms of environmental degradation and loss of revenue, all of which pose long-term challenges for sustainable economic development, the Enugu state government is coming on hard on illegal miners, arresting offenders and confiscating their equipment.
Hey, don't do that. Don't do that. One of the reasons why Enugu state government is so keen on this is because of the environmental degradation, the environmental impact mining is having in our state. However, there are legal miners who are contributing in many ways to our economy. We welcome miners, but let them confine to the regulation. And that's all we're asking for.
While key players identify corruption, weak institutional and regulatory frameworks as some factors that hinder effective resource management and encourage illegal mining, they emphasize the need for enhanced regulation, enforcement, and capacity building to curtail illegalities and promote responsible mining of the nation's natural resources. In Enugu, Susan Eze.
Now, back here in the studio, let's look at the security angle to all of this. Retired CP Ojukwu. Now, activities of miners in such rich mining areas have been closely linked with insecurity, acts of terrorism, and other criminalities. Can you situate this for us?
Well, it's a crime actually under our laws for somebody to get involved in mining without proper authorization. So you have illegal miners because there are legal miners. We only have fake news because there's authentic news. If there's no original, there won't be fake. So these ones are already getting involved in crime by getting into areas where they ought not to get to, where they were not licensed and authorized and permitted by law to operate. That's the one crime. And because they are clandestine, they are underground, and there are many of them. They may have miner association, you may have illegal miner association, but not registered. So they are underground. And because they are underground, they would like to be in conflict, perpetual conflict with the legal miners. That source of conflict breeds crime. Because by so doing, they undercut them, they may sabotage them, they may use all manner of influences, corrupt influences, to compromise the system, to maintain their stay, because they're like leeches, they are parasites in the system. That's an area of crime. Now, when they use unqualified persons, artisans, low-grade persons, Nigeria knows this. And this was because they do too much of manual labor for little pay. They may get energizers. They may get involved in drugs to keep them doing what they are doing. And drug trafficking or having drugs around somebody, abuse of drugs, has issue with crime. Now, when somebody is under psychotropic substances, he's not a normal person. And someone who is not normal can do abnormal things. That brings insecurity for us. That's why they attack institutions, they attack government, and they even attack law enforcement who want to stop them from continuing in their nefarious activities. You cite in Zamfara State, for instance, much of the banditry and insecurity we have there are attributed to the activities of illegal miners. It's been proven. And so they have corruptors. They get this money, they don't pay revenue to government, no royalty, and all that. So they have enough money to corrupt the system and to even buy firearms. They think that's in a war. That gives us a problem. And then again, sorry if I'm out. Yes. You know, I noticed a number of young men doing that. These are young men that should be in school. It's child labor. They should be in school. Young people are largely innocent. They don't know what they're doing. And because they don't know what they're doing, they do things that are outside the realm of the law. They get in conflict with the law, and then they create problem for all of us. And their tomorrow is not insured. Because the way it is now, if they begin at this age to get involved in crime, how much more the years coming? We will be in big trouble in this country.
Prof, Nigeria has a huge potential in the solid mineral sector. And despite all the attempts by governments and all, I mean, it continues to be a huge challenge. People have talked about the fact that these resources and the ground in some states, but it's the exclusive preserve of the federal government. Now, some have said, unless you begin to tinker with this arrangement, where land, for instance, in the state is vested in the state government, but then the resources in the land belongs to the federal government.
Well, let me first of all correct an impression. The resources in the land does not belong to the federal government, it belongs to the federation. It belongs to everybody. I don't think, and I stand to be corrected, whether the federal government has any mining license, except those ones maybe that had been maybe went during the time of Nigerian Mining Corporation, which is now defunct, which had been privatized, many of them, and sold out, so to say, and maybe remnants like the Takpe and all that, maybe one or two. But the federal government does not even have a mining license. I think there is a need to understand the law beyond sentiment. There is a reason, and I still say it, looking at all the Fraser Index, the Mining Index, and Governance Index for our mining laws. Our mining laws, the 2007 and then the policy of 2011 still remains one of the most cherished in the world. And the reason why people have not started coming is that they are waiting for us to get it right with the way you even do the law, the way you practice the law. Let's look at it. Nothing, and I say the law gives a huge advantage to the state governments. And many of those state governments that have listened and are quietly doing this are benefiting from this. Yes, the law states that everything below the ground belongs to the Federation, and the federal government holds it in trust. The Mining Cadastre Office, which is a federal institution, is only issuing out licenses. It's a kind of, what will I call it, a storehouse, a clearinghouse. Now, state governments there is no state government in Nigeria that does not have a holding company. None. Or an investment company. None. And the law states that if you want to obtain a license to mine, all you need to do is to register a limited liability company at the list and other few conditions. And there are different stages of licenses. Nothing, and I say it, nothing stops the state government, and many of them are doing it, of having licenses covering your states. There's nothing stopping you from having 100 licenses. I've had occasions to advise many state governments. I said, look, what are you doing? You're crying, oh, we cannot control resource. I said, look, you have holding companies. Can you just go out, get your geologists, get your geoscientists, go and obtain licenses? Seriously, it will surprise you that with less than about 5 million naira, you can obtain an SSML under the law. And I think the president of the Mining Association of Nigeria will be a movement. Let me just conclude this because it's very important. And it's something that looks like a contention. No, it doesn't have to be. So the state governments can get all the licenses and you can control your resources. So what is resource control? Ownership. And once your holding company have these companies, have these licenses, of course it naturally belongs to you. I will tell you something. If state governments are allowed and local governments are allowed, and we make this mistake of just giving licenses, there's going to be chaos. No investor will come in onto a high-risk environment. The mining industry is highly sensitive. And you begin to wonder, we got it right before up to 1975. Don't forget mining constituted about 12% of our GDP, contributed 12% of our GDP to our GDP in this country. Three main cities were founded as a result of mining, grew out of mining, including Port Harcourt. So we've got it right before. But when we now changed and we got this indigenization decree, and then we had 60-40%, and we don't have, the personnel, we have not had the capacity, we have not had the finances, and all the foreign companies, including the British companies, the American companies, came in who had handling this before, and you came with already, they left. And we've not really recovered since then. Now, this is the same situation. If you don't have a central licensing body holding it in trust for the federation and say, come, the state government, and there is an instrument of the law which even allows the state government a lot of control. That is the MIREMCO, the Mineral Resources Environmental and Monitoring Committee, headed by the state governments. And the state governors have the leeway to even appoint the chairman. And they are to monitor environment. They are able to monitor even how the licenses are operating. The MCO, I was part of the Nigerian Mining Council that I just held about last week in Ilorin. And one of the resolutions, which had been recurring over the years, the Mining Cadastre Office is to make available to the state governments all the licensed operators in their states. So they have the data. This MIREMCO, which is an instrument of the law, which many of the states are supposed to empower, are supposed to monitor everything that is going on. Who are the miners in your areas, in your states? How are they operating? What is the environmental compliance? This is even the function that had been given to the state government under the law, including even the ability to own. So you can control the resource, you can monitor the activities. And the federal government only holds the organization or the issuance of a license in store for the federation. And this is where there should be understanding.
Well, let me quickly come back to the president of the Miners Association. That from what Prof is saying here, sometimes it's said that people resort to self-help when the system which they're supposed to use to get things done legally is cumbersome and is fraught with all kinds of challenges. So they might say a lot more people would rather do underhand business with mining than do proper registration, because they probably have all kinds of issues, things that are going to debar them. There are a lot of things standing in the way. So I'm asking this question: how is the system of acquiring a registration from the miner's point of view, a registration as a miner legally, what's the ease of doing this business there? Let's hear you.
Talking about the process of acquisition of mining license, there's nothing cumbersome in it at all, sir. Even presently, the MCO, that is the Mining Cadastral Office, we started with the responsibility of issuing mining license, has even gone digital. You can sit down at the comfort of your home and of course apply for a license. Even yesterday, they called some stakeholders to examine what are the challenges of this system so that they can improve on it. So there is no any cumbersomeness in obtaining a mining license. I think the problem we are having that is cumbersome is in the operation, in the regulation. I want to defy Bill with Dr. Reta when he said what happened about this maybe problem of infrastructure. Yes, there are infrastructure problem in the sector, but what happened in Ibadan is not an infrastructure problem because mining is private driven. You don't expect the government to come and build magazine for you. So it is a private. Once you know you want to go into this place, you have to go into it full time and make sure that you do everything possible to make sure that you do your job in the proper way according to the law. So the issue of issuance or obtaining of mining titles is less cumbersome. It's not cumbersome. There's ease of obtaining mining licenses. But when it comes to regulation, like Prof has just said now, that is where we have problems. That is where maybe a lot of all these leakages, all these loopholes in regulations running from state government trying to hide things. That is where it comes from. Take for example, there are some operators who are forced to compromise with the state government. Of course, when you like Prof even said earlier on, take for example a state. He has mentioned your state. Let me talk about Niger State. The landmass in Niger State is about the 5 states in southeast and 5 of the 6 states in the southwest. The landmass of Niger State, and there are so many mining sites in Niger State with only one mines officer, a federal mines officer, with probably a healer's van that is not well functioning. How do you expect one person to manage and to supervise and to regulate activity in that place? So when these state actors come, when they set up their task forces and they sweep on you and you don't have the backing of the person who has licensed you to operate, you compromise. So when people are talking, when NTA will come up with their figures that the mine is not generating revenue, of course we differ. Because mine is generating revenue, but it's not going to the central port we are supposed to go. So these are the issues.
All right, we'll return to the question of the economy, but let me go to Dr. Ngargu and look at the health challenges and the dimensions of that with all these activities, some regulated, some largely unregulated, environmental degradation and health issues that we have had to deal with because of these numerous sites that are all over the place and which to a large extent would seem not to be properly monitored.
I like to always delve into health concerns arising from all forms of mining. Today we are focusing on illegal mining, which of course offers us more to chew in terms of the kind of or disease burden it places on mining communities and then on society generally. It's good to always whip the Zamfara 2010 saga, where lead poisoning, actually in conjunction with misuse or poor handling of mercury, which is used in processing the gold ore, led to the death of about 500 persons and so many children. So many young destinies just went. Within the context of illegal mining, you could see non-supervision, improper handling of even the crude equipment that is in use, improper handling of a lot of chemicals that are put to use while processing the ores, improper utilization of safety gear. In mining, there is always the proper way to dress, no matter how little or small the scale of mining is. And then even for some mining that goes to the subsurface, improper engineering support infrastructure. So leading to a lot of monumental health consequences. Cyanide, for instance, and mercury used in processing gold ore has taken a lot of lives. Quarry rock mining, for instance, every day we're blasting. The white dust that comes from it can lead to a cancer condition of the lungs called silicosis. And you go to all these quarry sites, from the very primitive quarry where a woman sits down with her hammer and is breaking the rocks, to semi-advanced and advanced quarries. You pity those employed to work in such places. Nobody has a nose mask. People are not wearing even protective glasses, and so they come in contact with these dust through inhalation, even from body pores, and it continues year in, year out. And then suddenly we have a rise in lung cases reported in our hospitals. Simple case control studies can reveal the health burden of mining in several communities. Now, beyond the two cases I mentioned, Nigerians will have noticed a rise in coal mining of late. In fact, every night, no fewer than 50 to 100 trucks pass through Nasarawa State heading to Kano. And now, when you still visit the mine, you pity those working there. No safety gear. And continuous inhalation or contact with coal dust will lead to another disease condition called pneumoconiosis, or the black lung disease, or the coal miner's disease. This is highly unchecked in Nigeria. Not to talk of arsenic causes from arsenic that is released into groundwater, into our soils, and several other heavy metals that directly pollute surface and groundwater, the land itself, where farmers will go and till, plant crops, and the heavy metals become bioaccessible and bioavailable, and we take them in form of foods, and again this is happening on annual basis. So the burden is much. Earlier on in the program, I made mention of a single compensation 7 years ago in South Africa that cost the government $400 million. A year later, it was followed by another compensation to gold miners worth £22 million. If we look at the Nigerian monetary context or currency context, where $1 million is over $1 billion naira, and you have to cough out $400 million, you can imagine the toll it has taken already on economic diversification and even fiscal infrastructural development. So this is the burden of illegal mining with respect to diseases and health conditions from mining communities to society generally. And our health care infrastructure cannot cope with these conditions. The last example I will give, which is not in Nigeria, but it helps to describe the picture here, was what was happening in Niger Republic, the neighboring country, where the mining company extracting uranium put together a health facility that could only test the miners and community inhabitants for malaria and typhoid, and not for concentration of heavy metals in their blood, in their hair, or in their tissues. And this is what goes on unregulated, unchecked, unaccounted for. And we keep having diseases that hospitals cannot explain. It takes maybe the knowledge of a medical geologist to help the physician in the hospital to say, no, this swelling of the legs is not viral elephantiasis. It is actually manganese-induced podoconiosis, just toxicity from manganese-rich soils. And mining keeps opening up those toxins to humanity. And the environment, like you said, we lose land for agriculture and even for tourism. Ecotourism is affected, and so receipts coming from that sector drop, and a vital arm of the nation's economy is hindered or hampered. So this is what I can say for now.
Let's return to the security expert within us here. And a lot of times Nigerians notice foreign nationals are involved in mining activities. Sometimes their status is not actually known. You can't ascertain whether or not they are guided by the rules and regulations. But we find them in here. And many times also there have been allegations that irregular immigrants have come in here, engaged in this trade, compromised security agencies and even local communities who might really not know the extent, might not know the damage they're causing either health-wise or economy-wise to the country, and just go ahead for pittance, while these foreign nationals are smiling all the way to their backs.
Well, it's really a sad development and a sad commentary on the state of affairs of Nigeria. I think that pertains more to immigration services. The bad incident, I learned it was the illegal miner, so to speak, is a foreigner. Fine. But our laws allow foreigners to participate in our economic development. Even the Mineral and Mining Act allows for equitable balance between Nigerians and foreigners. We need direct foreign investment in our industries. Nigeria may not have the wherewithal to do mining activities, or the wherewithal to do mining activities. We still need an intervention from foreigners. Now, but it depends, it is incumbent on us to regulate who comes in and what that person does within the perimeters of Nigerian environment. And if he is doing what he ought not to do, to call him to order in good time. It lies with the immigration services and for all Nigerians, as a matter of fact, to report activities of foreigners
who are vandalizing our environment, who are polluting our waters, who are not properly disposing of waste, who are causing flooding in our environment, and who, like Doctor mentioned, causing Nigerians in installments. These things may lead to riots. People protest if they begin to see women cannot give birth, children are getting blind, they're having elephantitis, as the case may be. It may lead to protests. And when there's a protest, anybody can be a victim. So all of us are actually involved in reporting activities of foreigners who don't have a stake in Nigeria. If they destroy Nigeria, they go back to their countries. So we have a duty, even under the law, under the Constitution. Section 24 says it is the duty of every Nigerian to assist law enforcement agencies in maintaining law and order. So every citizen has a duty to make sure those who are working in Nigeria work in line with the law, and when they do otherwise, to report to the appropriate authorities.
Well, at this point in time, we'll take a short break. When we return, the phone lines will open, and then we can take in your views, your comments, or questions on the issues at stake. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. In this segment, we'll open the phone lines. The numbers to call will be on your screen. We advise you take advantage of them to call in. And we usually do this. We go down the lane, recalling and refreshing your memory on the process and procedures, which is one. If you're calling in tonight and your call gets through to the studio, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we encourage you to keep it short and straight to the point so that others can also get on the platform. And we say this every Tuesday. Don't bother yourself about the greetings. Just a simple hello is good enough. Right, so thanks. And let's hear you. Whatever issues you raise or questions, our guests here will be willing to address them. But we'll start off with another in our reports, this one from Jos.
Of mineral resources has contributed significantly to the development of the economy. However, illegal mining activities are negatively impacting the environment, economy, as well as human lives. Plateau State is said to be the home of solid minerals because of the rich natural deposits of more than 30 minerals. Some of the minerals include tin, columbite, tantalite, kaolin, lead, and iron ore. However, illegal mining in the state is of growing concern to stakeholders due to its impact on the environment, contributing to social instability and adversely affecting the economy.
We have a lot of cases where people have lost their lives based on illegal mining because they don't have the safety gears, and a lot of them go into this pits and due to desperation, they are immature, inexperienced, and this pits fall on them, and we're losing people here and there.
There was a point when minerals that were powering Europe
were being extracted from Plateau State. So we have grown very far and high. But unfortunately, over time, activities have dwindled, that the organized sector is not able to continue to grow, so that there will be no room for illegality.
What can be done to curtail these illegal practices?
This government is paying a lot of attention on diversifying the country's revenues, and mining is one of those sectors that they are paying particular attention. And that way the state is also gaining from the policies that are trickling down from the federal level. We're looking at organizing cooperatives where people can come together, these miners can come together, and they're giving all those gears and they are lectured on how to go about mining the different communities.
When you don't support the mining industry to the level where they are able to now operate to hinder such illegalities from operating, then they have to be the ones to do the work. They become the caterpillars, the earth moving machines. They extract the tin and columbite and whatever else that you need to process and then to export.
They also agree that since illegal mining activities hamper economic growth, government must, as a matter of urgency, formalize the sector through relevant and workable policies. In Jos, Priscilla Grumnan.
Just there you see from Plateau State, where artisanal miners, with all the hazards involved. I'm sure Dr. Ngargu tell us more about those hazards, right in those pits, and some of those pits, oh well, you see them all over Plateau State. And in fact, part of the insecurity in Plateau has been blamed on this kind of a thing, where there's an attempt to grab land which is rich in tin and other such minerals. But it brings us to something that Prof talked about earlier on in his opening comments, and he said capacity. Do we have that capacity? What's the capacity of this country? How we're looking here at an industry that would require professionals at the very highest level. Do we even have that to start with?
Thank you. I think, first of all, don't let's mix things up by saying from some of the reports we got, especially the one from Plateau, that's not artisanal mining. That's scavenger mining. There's a difference between scavenger mining and artisanal mining. You see, an artisan, he may not even have gone to school. Let's take a mechanic, for example. He's an artisan. He doesn't even need to have a certificate, but he goes through a training of 4 or 5 years before he becomes a mechanic or even a carpenter. And when he handles things, he will handle it according to his own skills. Even as a professor, I cannot repair my vehicle. I'm not a mechanical engineer, but a mechanic will do it because he's trained. So I think what we are seeing, artisanal miners are those who at least have gone through some kind of tutelage in mining, using even the smallest of equipments. And there are artisanal equipments. These ones we are seeing are the main problems. This is what constitutes about 70% of the mining scenario in Nigeria. Now, do we now have the capacity? We have abundance of it, and we have a lot of evidence. Well, I teach in the University of Ibadan. We started producing geologists since 1960. And there is no year that we have produced less than minimum of about 20. Let's say this year we're going to graduate about 40 or so. There are some universities that are churning out at least 50 to 60. And as I'm talking to you now, there are not less than 50 departments of geology in this country, whether public, whether private. And they are bringing out well-trained geoscientists every year. There is no way we don't have in this country, as I'm talking to you, not less than about 20,000 geologists in Nigeria. Nigeria, and you can quote me anywhere, I preside over the Geological Society of Africa, which is the umbrella body of all geoscientists in Africa. And I'm a past president of Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society. So I'm talking from knowledge. In the Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society, whether those who pay their dues annually or those who don't, we have on our register not less than 12,000 geoscientists, mining engineers, and metallurgists. We have started producing geoscientists in Nigeria since 1961. This is the 63rd year of the NMGS. So the issue of capacity is not in doubt. And I'll tell you something. Some of us have a little privilege of traveling all over Africa, so to say. And in many of the mining jurisdictions, that even where mining contributes almost 20%, 30%, 15% of the GDP of the country, Namibia, Botswana, those who are the helm of affairs are Nigerians.
Okay, let me just ask you to pause a while here. Yeah. Let's get in this very first call.
Yeah.
Coming in from Lagos, or Labodi calling in from Lagos. Hello, Labodi.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good
evening. I hope you can hear me properly.
Go ahead. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. This is a very interesting topic, but I think the most important thing that I've learned from here is that there is poor administration of national resources. Because as the convention from where is discussing, the nation has what it takes to administer the entire landscape. And my contribution is that if you try to cultivate your land, it will go weak. And the weak that there is the bandits that have taken over the state, whereby illegal mining are taking place. If the government has already taken the right steps by implementing the laws, employing people in a very structured way, the mining space will be properly occupied. People will earn decent income, and there is not that they live for bandits. All those mining areas are populated by people in the location where they have. And those people are protected by the people that are faithless, the real funded. And those people now, because they are being empowered with legal resources, they are ready to take on the government through form of illegality and some of banditry. People go to guerrilla war to protect his government. I think because of the time, I will just want to offer 3 advice. One, Nigerian nation need to rise up and deploy resources to ensure that people are well structured to earn decent income through proper implementation of mining policy. The second one is that we should ensure that people that have knowledge and capability are brought in to help the nation. The third one I want to say is that Nigeria does not have capable hand to run the mining industry, technical and professionally. Then are they allowed to do the work?
Right.
These are the things that I see because of time. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, Olabode. Well, Prof.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's almost trying to say what I'm trying to say. But you see, again, so we have the capacity. But again, are we channeling the capacity? The number of geoscientists, mining engineers, geologists that are idling, and I'm saying this around or in other places, could be harnessed. I gave a little concept the other time. I don't know whether it's acceptable. We have this social investment program where you have these funds. We have this N-Power program. And many of us can say that, well, the N-Power program to a large extent is effective, but you still find many of those who are just collecting this money and are not even doing what they're supposed to do. Can we just take part of this money? Get about 500. Some of us can help look for those 500 geoscientists, young people. Train them again. They're out of school. Train them again for about 2-3 months. Concept of safety mining, what Christo have just also said about safety procedures in mining, how to handle little equipments, get about 500 of them. I think more than 10,000 or so are under the social investment program, these Empower. Can we get the geoscientists? Because this is like an emergency. Train this for 2-3 months. Maybe geological service can handle that, or even steel raw materials and all that. Train them with the universities, not certificate, but get them again reoriented and unleash them into these fields. They are trained. Go and teach these people in terms of an extension work. Go and teach them how to do the basic things. Give them the little money you are giving them for Empower. Increase it a little bit. Let them enter back into the industry. Let them sanitize this industry. We're not saying they should be in your budget net. There's already the funds for the social investment program that is going here and there and not really coerced. In this way, you occupy these young people. You help these scavenger miners. They also don't want to die. They want to do things the right way. These artisanal miners, bring them into the net. Go and also orient those young people that you are training. And I know geologists, when you train geologists, they are trained in a hard environment in the bush. So they are disciplined. That one basic thing about geoscientists or mining engineers is that the first ingredient is discipline. If you are not disciplined, you can't be in that kind of field. So you take them into the field, let them go and train these people. Let them do extension work amongst them. And you will see sanity in many of the mining fields within the next 2 years. Finish with the first 500. By the time you are finishing with the first 2 years, those ones too have already oriented themselves within the mining fields. They will now be part of the workforce. That will be the artisan people in the mining field. They won't want to get out. Get another set of 500. And the money is there. It's not through any extra budgetary allocation of Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. Social investment program. This what I've just mentioned now. This what do you call it? N-Power. Get them into the mining field, and you will see the rate and the stress, the tension, even in the sector, even banditry, criminality. It will go down a little bit. Let me say something, please. In the mining sector, it is not today that you have been having this kind of criminality. I associate quite a little bit, and maybe the chairman Miners Association, President Miners Association knows this, with some of the people in the Oyo North area. It's not today. When mining started there in the early 90s, and we were looking for tantalite, looking for columbites and gemstones, you also add this incursion of foreigners, and they are the wrong ones, not even the right ones, ex-criminals and all that, in the fields. So this banditry, this criminality, even has started since then. So it's only now just, coming up because of the recent scenario in the world. But what is really foiling it? They are not properly oriented. They also have to be told that there is treasure in all those places. They only have to come, do it the right way, and there will be sanity. There is no country in the world that the GDP, the mining GDP's contribution to the economy had increased like this, that is doing mining like this. Not even in the African countries. We need to get it right, and we will get the benefits of the huge potentials.
Well, there are a lot of other issues associated with this, and let me return to the question of security once more. For a lot of those areas where these activities take place, it would seem that yes, the security agencies themselves are aware that banditry, the attempt to carry on, is located. Now, we'll see, knowing a problem is halfway to solving it. But have we seen concerted efforts towards dislodging those who we would almost say now that they're embedded in these areas where that are rich in mineral, rich in mineral resources, and they want to be embedded in there, and they refuse to take off. Just perhaps before you respond to that question, let's get in the second call from Umar Anachi, I believe, from Brindin Kebi. Hello, Umar.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Umar Anachi from Brindin Kebi. You see, this illegal mining and illegal miners, you and I know that a common man doesn't have the capacity to engage in those illegality. The leaders and the elite, they are the people that are sponsoring this illegal mining. So the sooner they stop this illegal mining, the better for our country. If you can record any many illegal miners across Africa, not even Nigeria, is they have what they call it's just like a syndicate. They will mine your goods, they will mine your products and divert your attention to something. All this criminality is diversion of attention. You will see them, they will throw a kind of store to the people, while they will take other side, they will continue mining their our goods. So it is better for the government to tackle illegal miners on the top of the scale, on top. Those officers on top, they are the people that are sponsoring these miners, and they are the people that are sponsoring the criminality behind all illegal miners. I believe that all the criminalities that is happening in Nigeria is as a result of illegal miners. May God continue to bless our country. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Umar. Well, yes.
Well, about security and the insecurity that we have, about security agencies and insecurity that we're experiencing in many parts of Nigeria, Niger State, Zamfara, rest of them, or just wherever, but not east, southwest, and the rest of them. There are two elements. You don't police for a people, you police with the people. You don't do policing for people, you do it with them. The people must accept your concept that you have noticed something that is untoward and you want to make a change. They must agree with you. If they refuse, if they don't agree with you, you may want to carry them along. You don't want to come along with you, they will sabotage you. And that's it. So I was a DPO in Bauchi State, and close to my station, people were getting drunk per second. While policemen were getting drunk and falling inside gutters. I said I must address this. I met a governor that this drinking spot must be relocated. Governor agreed with me to relocate it. People stayed the process against me. I was spoiling their means of business. To them it is business. But to normal human beings, it was destroying lives. I tried to make a change. They laid a protest against me. They think I shouldn't go there. So the people must cooperate with law enforcement agencies that what they want to do is for the common good. Job of policing is to prevent crime from happening. And where it does happen, to detect it. In fact, in preventing, to deter somebody from doing it. And where it does happen, to detect. You must carry people along, they must agree to go with you. There is second aspect, apart from community involvement and buy-in, second aspect is the capacity of law enforcement. You and I are in this country, I've been here for over 60 years. And I've seen that the government, the body language of government has not been favorable to the law enforcement. It's not favorable. It is somebody to whom you are giving more than you expect much from. When you have not done the needful, if you want equity, you must do equity. Come with clean hands. The body language has not signified that government really wants to deal with insecurity head on. That's my view. It may sound controversial, but I'm not convinced, because they know the problem has been known, identified by those who have studied the system, even eggheads in academic institutions. NIPS has studied so many of these systems, problems, and proffered solutions to government. Government ought to catch it on this and affect them. So body language is a problem. So if we may not blame security, so to speak. They have their own problems, personal problems, their own attitude, but then again, everybody is in that mess.
Sometimes it does happen when arrests are made, and there's so much noise about it, and people have been arrested, and shortly afterwards, nothing more is heard about it, and these cases would seem to just melt away into the dark. How powerful, because the last caller said he thinks that there is elite complicity in the country that is, the ordinary folks are not in the position to sponsor these activities. How credible is a view like that?
It is actually credible because I saw a skit. I don't know where to arrange, but I saw a suspect arrested by the police and handcuffed. He was threatening the policeman. I'll soon come out and I'll deal with you. How will you come out if somebody does not compromise the system? So the system has problem. Nigeria has issue of corruption. I've been trying to reform. You don't reform what is good. There's problem in this country. And everybody's hands are in it. So we must agree to change our way of doing things and stop monetizing or reinforcing bad behavior. Our elites reinforce bad behavior and use copy adult delinquency. Because you can do something where you think there's immunity for your impunity. The law cannot catch up with you. People get caught in corruption. They are taken to court. The case lasts for 12 years. They may be sentenced and the other court will reverse it. He's not a criminal. Somebody appeared on Senate and said he's not a criminal. He wasn't convicted. But we know it. I saw another skit, whether it's good or not. Criminals celebrating a minister in this country. I saw it this morning. They were praising him. So it shows that there's a problem with our system and Nigeria needs to change. Otherwise, we ain't going nowhere yet, as Americans will say.
Well, let's return to Dr. Ngargo and the question of capacity and what we can do, those who are playing in this race. Well, Prof here says there's a huge difference between the artisanal miners and those he referred to as the scavengers, who constitute a large number of what we see and say they are artisanal miners. But speaking about harnessing this resource for improving, especially at a time when the country is at an all-time low.
Back to capacity. You see, many things can refer to capacity. Prof has already done justice to one, talking about knowledge. Yeah, capacity too could mean the capital base to run mining effectively. Capacity could also mean the technological wherewithal to execute safe and healthy mining. So with respect to the large chunk of knowledge base, Nigeria stands tall. And so we have people who can look at the ores, who can speak about their origin, who can help to guide even mining technology to maximize the mineral potential beneath the earth surface. But we need improved capacity when it comes to capital base, the funding for proper mining to take place. We need also enhanced technology. At the very basic level of mining technology, Nigeria has no problem. Most of those devices deployed are handheld. A small Hilux truck can convey many of such equipment to field. But when you talk about growing the formal mining sector, which is the opposite of the illegal mining sector, we need improved capacity on those two factors. Having said this, I would like to say the only way to reverse the current negative trend, fill the gaps, and address deficiencies that are leading to some of these negative consequences of the way we are doing the mining business in Nigeria, is to strengthen once more legal framework, regulatory framework, if we like, the monitoring institutions, and as well as probably deploy innovation, like channeling funds deliberately towards some of those young earth scientists, mining experts, metallurgists that we have just lying fallow, unutilized. It's like wasted national assets in the mining sector. We need to do that, and it's one way to innovate the state of mining as it is today in Nigeria. If not, we will have the knowledge without the matching funds and the matching technology with which to promote formal mining, which is what will obstruct or diminish the field day that illegal miners are having today in the country, and placing on the country a lot of social costs, like the Commissioner of Police has said. One, we've been hammering on banditry. It's even more than that. We have so many other illicit practices going on as a result of activities of illegal miners, and other attendant social costs could even be communal unrest, which is not banditry. Community A versus community B no longer saying hello to each other, depleting again social capital, because where the two communities ought to come together to front community development, they are unable to sit on the same table and to front such activities. So this and many others, including health costs, are the things that promoting and strengthening formal mining will do as against what we have today, preponderance of illegal mining.
Right, let's get back to the phones. We have Mohammed Audu calling in from Gwagwalada. Hello, Mohammed. Go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Go on.
Yes, my name is Mohammed Audu. The issue of this illegal mining is an issue that cannot be resolved as a result of our poor management of our policy. One, let me tell you, if not because of this illegal act, this country must have turned to a different thing, even worse than Somalia. Because this little illegal thing, yes, one is because if you look at the situation in this country, most of our living attitude today, the issue is, if you cannot do that, you cannot survive. Which way forward? How do we tackle this issue?
So what you're saying is people necessarily have to engage in illegality to survive.
Let them come back to the right track to achieve our purpose.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll give an example, sir. Today, why I'm telling you this, you that are there, you are living on the platform of good. Nobody thinks about the common man on the street. Please, this issue of illegality, let government go back and trace their track so that we can have a very good impact. Today, we are having Yahoo. How is this small boys are doing Yahoo? If not because of this Yahoo, this country will have catch fire. Please, let's go back to our track.
Okay.
Let's think well. This the acquiring wealth.
Okay.
Is back.
All right. Well, Mohammed, I I'm getting a little bit confused. In one breath, you talk about criminality. In another, you say it's necessary for people to engage in such illegalities in order for them to survive, and that if you didn't have these illegalities, the country would have exploded. So I'm a little bit confused about what your stand is. But perhaps the president of the Miners Association would give us a little insight into what the chairman of your association in Plateau State, we saw him in that report from Jos, called poor administration. Things used to be better before, but after a while there was a lull, and then poor administration has contributed a great deal to people not doing the things they should do correctly.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I've said it a bit, in part, the other time. And I think Prof has also dwelt on this much. You see, there is this proverbs that if there are cracks in the walls, reptiles will take a boat. In the case of Nigerian solid mineral sector, the cracks are getting wider in terms of administration of the mineral resources. And the more reptiles, more dangerous than lizards, are taking a boat in it. We have had cases, I know we have all had cases about state governments stamping the laws in the face by contending regulations with the federal government. And when we look at our legislative list, mining is not the only state function that's in the exclusive list. We can take one or two other examples. Take, for example, in spite of all the banditry, all the insecurity taking place in Nigeria now, no state government has established its own Ministry of Police. No state government has established Ministry of Defense. And when we go to economic factor, even look at aviation. Aviation is also in the exclusive list. And despite the fact that we have even some state governments that are running airlines, none of them has established Ministry of Aviation. But instead of doing this, these state governments are improving the capacity of the agencies. Take, for example, they buy operational vehicles for police in their states. They buy for soldiers, military formations in their states. They buy equipment for customs, immigration services that are domiciled in their states. We even have some state governments, even without having airlines, that are helping to improve the aviation industry in their states. They improve the infrastructure, constructing road, renovating the airports and things like that, without establishing a ministry for that purpose. And we have all these agencies also in the ministry. And apart from that, apart from the fact that the laws have a lot of provisions for state government to participate and to help in the regulation of mining without actually establishing their own structures, they can also support. We have been talking of inadequate capacity. They can support all these federal government agencies in their states by way of providing the logistics, even the human capital. Professor Kola mentioned the issue of external services. Nothing stopped from state government from funding such an initiative, so that the check-in in terms of 13% derivation will be more that will come to their state. So a state, like the chairman has said, the chairman of Plateau State has said, poor regulations, poor administration has been the major problem, and no investor will come under this confused regulations regime that we are passing through in Nigeria.
Exactly.
Okay, let's try and get on Moses, who's calling in from Bauchi. Moses, hello. Hello,
good morning.
Yes, go ahead, please.
All right, I'm Moses calling from Bauchi.
Go on.
Okay, I feel strongly that the issue of illegal mining can only be traced if we go back to its roots. Lack of gainful employment for the youthful population in our country today is primarily the root of this illegal mining. In Bauchi State and Plateau, for example, the mining communities have most of those who earn their daily living from mining. Like the minister, they Dele Alake cried out recently. It goes on to tell you that those who are really behind illegal mining are powerful citizens of this country and not just the ordinary man. Most of those in the field mining are sponsored by powerful individuals in the society. They are just their laborers. Then security agencies have the capacity to end illegal mining. But it cannot happen without the positive will of the government to do that. Who are those in government? There are also people who are benefiting indirectly from mining, illegal mining. And they sabotage the efforts of the security agencies. Finally, insecurity in Nigeria, in my opinion, is far from coming to an end until and unless illegal mining is curbed. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Moses from Bauchi. Gentlemen, you heard the contribution there. Says, as long as you have so many idle hands, this will continue to thrive because the young people just have to survive. It's almost aligning with what Mohammed earlier on said, that people need to survive, but do they need to go the illegal way, Prof?
Well, thank you. They don't need to go the illegal way, and illegality does not solve illegality, and two wrongs really don't make it right. But I think we also need to help them. The state needs to help them. The environment needs to help them. And I just provide a kind of a solution where you can get at least, in 2 years, you can get at least 1,000 off. And they can be the ones that will, the private sector will take them on. Just like the president of the Miner Association of Nigeria said, and I agree with him, mining is a very sensitive sector. And the reason why it is sensitive is that, look, it's a marathon. You want to put in billions of naira, and you want to be there for about 10, 15, 20 years, because it's not just buying and selling or manufacturing. And so you want to watch the environment. If it's not stable, nobody will put his money. Kisto was saying there is a challenge actually about funding. But capital looks for where it can produce itself. Where you put the capital in and it just sinks and it doesn't come out, nobody will put his own capital there. We have many financial institutions in Nigeria, but I would say many of them have still been very shy of investing in this in the sector because of the risk. And the risk has nothing to do with whether the potentials are there, whether the resources are there or not, but are the lands vacant? I got some investors just come around and say, oh, they want to invest somewhere around the Lesha and, of course, yeah, gold area and all that. And by the time they got there and they saw the confusion in the fields, hundreds of miners already occupying even the areas that would say, okay, this is a prospective area, they just moved back. So in this kind of confused setup, in this kind of situation where there is no sanity in the field and the legality is not really promoted, investors will move back. So we need to also help. And who are those that we mine? It's the youth. Yes, I've had a lot of narratives about, powerful people behind the legal. It is true. But at the same time, there is the other side of it. These so-called powerful people are not going to be the ones to be digging the ground. They are not going to be the ones to be handling the excavator. It is still the young ones. And it's time for us to train the young ones. If you don't train them, what they don't know, they cannot know. And that's why I talk about these extension services to sanitize the field. We need it. The capacity of the federal government personnel currently in the mining sector is not adequate. Not that they are not well trained, but they are just not enough. So we have to look for innovative ways, bring the young people, and let me say something. The latent capacity that is outside, they are very creative. These young people, even in the art science fields are very creative. Already, they are even higher than what we were teaching, because they're now talking of machine learning. They're now talking of remotely sensed data. They're now talking of using these different kind of technologies that were not artificial intelligence. And all we need to do is to harness this. Nigeria can still get it right. I'm confident. I don't lose the hope in the mining industry, because where there is a potential and you have the people, if there is a will, if we get the governance in the mining sector right, then we can make a lot out of the mining sector. And the people that will do it, the young ones, that is a very huge plus for Nigeria. The population of the young ones that are ready, many of them that are doing things legally are much more than those who are criminals amongst them. And that is the advantage we have, even in the mining sector. So we can harness this.
Well, as we begin to wind down, let me come to Dr. Ngagu and say, well, Prof started talking about the way out of it, and you also did in your earlier comments. As put in context for us, if you say that the laws we have are to a large extent okay, except for just a few tinkering here and there, what should be the direction we should go in?
Yes, I spoke about the South African model briefly, where I was talking about the strengthening of the safety aspects of the law. One of the biggest economic burdens any country will have to carry or bear as a result of illegal mining is, of course, the distortion in the supply chain caused by illegal miners. Distortion even in trade balance. Illegal mining also weakens the regulatory infrastructure, the monetary institutions, because they are always striving to compromise them, to corrupt illicit practices. Illegal mining also distorts trade balance. In fact, it may increase, and it will always increase export volume, but not trade balance. Because at the end of the day, the minerals find their way out through illegal pathways and evading a lot of frameworks put in place to maximize the mineral potential of a given country, for instance. So one of the biggest ways forward is probably to strengthen legislation. We have to go back. If the law is there, it is beautifully written, but it's not biting, it's not taking a toll on the miners and actors in that sector. For instance, if you do not handle mining responsibly and you endanger livelihoods or you distort livelihoods, you are made to pay adequate compensation. People will learn to be more responsible with the way they are harnessing the mineral resources. Now, another model could be the European model. That is a three-level model with an increasing safety bar and an increasing hazard bar. Now, the level with the higher safety spectrum is the level 3 for European Union or Europe. That one just requires minimal effort to make mining work effectively, and it's just administrative efforts. Now, the level 2, which is like intermediate between high risk and the low risk aspects of mining in Europe, either isolates hazards and impediments to effective mining, or it substitutes such or it just reduces the risks and the impediments. Then at the highest level of risk and inefficiency in mining, level 1, the impediment or the hazard is entirely eliminated. That is the requirement in the European mining law. It guarantees safety, it guarantees health, and then this takes me to the point raised by two of the callers. What we are doing here is not to talk against poor people being employed or finding livelihood. We're actually trying to discuss in order to proffer solutions that will help them get the employment and still live healthy, get good payment, because illegal mining does not guarantee healthy practices, and that takes a toll on their health. In fact, there is a phenomenon, the CHE, catastrophic health expenditure, is commonly associated with illegal mining. It takes for instance, if exposure to cyanide or mercury makes a miner incur a kidney ailment or a cardiovascular ailment, or even a carcinogenic or cancerous condition, he or she is likely to spend catastrophically, meaning that even monies for school fees, for feeding, for clothing, he will have to spend. He will sell the only plot of land the mining gave him opportunity to buy just for treatment, and the ailment may be terminal. So we are trying to actually say no. The scale is not what matters, but how well the activity is carried out. And that guarantees the employability of even more youth. As it stands today, only about 2 million persons are involved in this illegal mining business. But if it is formalized, if it is adequately regulated and monitored, it creates room for formal employment opportunities. So labor rights are guaranteed under formal mining and not under illegal mining. So we're actually talking in the best interest of those unemployed youths that have cheap access to either scavenger miners or the artisanal miners and mining sites.
All right, let's come to the president of the Miners Association, and we started this conversation looking at what happened in Ibadan, and I earlier asked about what the kind of interaction and relationship you have with miners who are members of this. Of course, it's obvious that not everyone belongs to the association, but we would like to know, do you have a way, for instance, of knowing which of your members have the right infrastructure? In this case, the magazine that you talked about, you say that you have a way of knowing that your members comply with the regulations when it deals to the handling of explosives.
Well, we may not have the 100% knowledge of what they have, but there's one thing we believe in. We believe that for anybody to have been issued a mining title, all these issues must have been addressed by the regulatory authority. Take, for example, if you are mining, you can't do without explosive. Mining is like the proverbial omelette, which you cannot make without breaking the egg. So, and before you can make any returns that you have gotten this so much, you want to pay royalty, of course the question will be asked, the level of your operation. And that is where the issue of regulation, this human capacity and logistics capacity regulation comes in. Because all these regulators, all these agencies, they're supposed to be visiting all these sites and ensure compliance with the laws and the regulations. So our own belief is that before you can be licensed to be operating, you must have passed through all these processes. You must have applied for magazine, and of course, before you can get any explosive to your site, you must have applied to the appropriate authority for permit. So, however, if in addition to this, we do sensitization programs, we do education for them so that they comply with the laws and the regulations. If eventually anybody fails to comply, he or she is on his own.
Okay, so fine, if you were to encounter an errant member, you could either suspend their membership or expel them from the association and say, look, you're giving us a bad name and we can't afford to have you stay around. Do you have any such?
Of course. Right. In Nigeria, yes. If you are not doing the proper thing that's supposed to do, and of course the law catches up with you, and you are somehow punished for that, the association also can as well decide to punish you.
Well, we've just about run out of time, but we'll let the retired CP also give his views, his closing comments on everything we've said here so far today.
Yes, okay. Thank you. I listened to one of the callers, I think the first. He said if you fail to cultivate your land, it will grow. A good number of illegal miners employ youths. The youths are about 60% of our population. So that 60% could be a gold mine or a time bomb. If we don't properly deploy our youth to use their energies in the correct ways of making money for themselves and to contribute to GDP, they use them for evil, to do illegal things, and to create insecurity for everybody, and all of us will be on edge. So I think we should do the proper thing, and then we should hold people accountable. Where there's no accountability or answerability, people do things anyhow. Even the regulatory body can afford to may give license to someone who has not fulfilled the processes. So people have to be held accountable if they do wrong things or they fail to do what they ought to do.
Well, and then to cap it all up, we would ask Prof for one last word in terms of the capacity which you say is abundant. You churn out so many geoscientists, and you think that they can make a difference. But have you as professionals, and this also includes Dr. Ngagu, have you as professionals, as a block, tried to influence the positive turn?
Oh yes, we've done it severally. We've been involved. We're involved, of course, in crafting the laws. The laws are not crafted for us by foreigners. That's part of the capacity. We were involved in drawing the roadmap for the mining sector, the roadmap that's supposed to last for the next 10 years from 2016 to 2026. I still chair the implementation strategy team, and all these provisions are there. And some of the strategies are revealed also tonight, and some of the ways in which we have asked the government to look into. But let me just say something, artisanal mining, done illegally, has never created wealth. And it has not created wealth in Nigeria. In fact, it has increased the poverty. I'll give this analogy. It's like you put crumbs of sugar on the table there, and then leave it overnight, and you see how ants will do it. But if you pack the sugar properly, and you put it in a cellophane bag, and you put it in a container, you won't see the ants. That's the same thing with the mining industry. If you put your resources carelessly, ants will gather, and they will waste it. So what we need to do is to get jealousy. The laws are there. We need to improve the governance structure. We need to do more monitoring, and maybe I will cap it up. Sorry, it's trying to be a little bit religious. Righteousness exalts a nation, and that's very important. We should all, at every level, the private sector, the miners, the governors, professionals, seek to do the right thing. It's not rocket science. Many nations have made mining their main cash cow. South Africa practically lives on mining. Botswana practically lives on mining. Namibia practically lives on mining. I will stand to say it any day. Their resources are not much more than what we have in Nigeria if we harness it properly. We do it well, and then we will reap the fruits of the potentials. Thank you.
All right. Well, as I always say, no one program can capture the issues completely, and so we'll leave this matter here for now. However, next week we'll revisit this issue, and hopefully we should be with the minister who's in charge of this. We look forward to that when we have a second look at the impact of illegal mining in the economy. And of course, if we privileged to have the minister join us, we'll be raising matters of policy. But for now, we must thank our guests and Mr. Dele Ayolike, President, Miners Association of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for coming here.
Retired Commissioner of Police, Emmanuel Ojukwu. It's good to see you again. It's been quite a while.
Thanks for having me again.
Thank you for coming. Let me also thank Professor Olugbenga Okunola, the University of Ibadan. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir.
And Dr. Kitsongagu, thank you for being here. It's always a delight to discuss these matters with you. Thank you.
My pleasure, as usual.
Right. And thank you too for being part of this program. Next week we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Bye for now.